Wherever you happen to be, see if you can settle immediately, without all of the searching, rehearsing, adjusting, readjusting, performing, or otherwise fanfare. Simply drop everything else and settle into your body sitting, into your body breathing, just as it is. And if this feels at all difficult or even unachievable, consider that you already are sitting and you already are attending, just as you are. There's nothing special that you need to do. Of course, the way you are sitting might not feel as comfortable and it might not feel as settled as you would like it to. The way you're attending might be distracted. But you are already here, already attending, and all you have to do is notice. And now take the same perspective to your breathing. Realize that there is nothing special you need to do here. Breathing is already going on just as it is. Whether it is shallow, fast, deep, slow, comfortable, uncomfortable, restful, doesn't really matter. All you have to do is attend. Find your breath just as it is, already there, already going on. And then see if you can follow each breath just as it is, from the moment it arises, all the way through its cycle, however it may be, until the moment it vanishes at the end of the exhale. Tune up your attention or warm it up, as it were, by following a couple breaths just like this. 5 or 10 will be enough. In this practice, we are going to begin training our focus, our skills of concentration, clarity, and equanimity in the space of external experience, or the space of physical senses, seeing, hearing, and feeling of physical body sensations. Depending on the training path that got you here, you will probably have already had experience working with some of these as independent objects of concentration. You might have worked in the space of seeing of the world around you, or hearing of the sounds of the world around you. You might have worked with the feeling of physical body sensations. You might even have had experience working with the corresponding internal spaces, seeing of mental imagery, hearing of mental talk or thoughts, and feeling of emotional body sensations. In today's practice, we're going to focus on our external experience, bringing all three of the spaces of seeing, hearing, and feeling together. But before we do that, we are going to warm up, as it were, by working through each of these in turn. So take a moment to reset in your posture and find your breath. And we are going to start with the space of seeing. You might close your eyes for a moment, only to open them again and appreciate the fullness of your visual field. It is a fact of subjective experience that as long as you're aware and awake, your visual field is full of whatever there is being seen. You might adjust your gaze towards a more passive, expansive configuration, the type of gaze that can take in the entire visual field from far left to far right, far top to far bottom, but by comparison tends to disregard detail. And then notice the tendency of your visual attention to move from this passive receptive gaze into a more focused, reaching gaze by focusing and moving across various objects. And realize that each time this happens is a moment of active seeing. And if you want in your mind, you can note it by attending to the specific thing you're seeing and label it as seeing. And so if you're sitting in some sort of a living room, you might notice that your vision tends to move around from the lamp to the desk, to the couch, to the TV, back to the lamp. Or if you're sat on a train, it moves around from person to window to seat, to the thing that you hold on to if you happen to be standing, and so on. If you pay very close attention, you might realize that even if you don't move your eyes, your visual attention moves. Each one of those movements is a moment of active seeing. Note it. Concentrate on the seeing. Let it go and move on. And now, without moving or closing your eyes, simply bring your attention to your ears and attend to your space of hearing. And realize that as long as you're aware and awake, your space of hearing is full of whatever there is being heard. And you cannot help but hear the next sound that you hear. Likewise, there's nothing you have to do to hear the next sound that you hear. It simply does it by itself. Attend to this. See if you can spot the next sound the moment it arises in your awareness. And then the next, and then the next. Notice how each sound that you hear outlines the space of hearing as a space that has a spatial property to it. You can sort of locate sounds by some point of reference to the left, to the right, top, bottom, front, and back. You can even infer their distance based on things like loudness and distortion. Each time you notice that a new sound has come up in your attention, realize that this is an instance of hearing. Note it. Concentrate on the sound until it is perfectly clear for as long as it is there. Let it go and move on. You might take a little break at this point and see if you can follow a single breath, wherever you feel it or hear it the clearest, from the moment it arises in your awareness, all the way through its cycle, until the very end, where it vanishes. And now bring your attention to the physical sensations that may be present for you right now. You might feel the points of pressure where your body meets the cushion or the chair or the train seat that is below you. You might feel a breeze on your skin or on your face, touch of cloth against your skin, on the shoulder or your back. There may be pains and niggles, itches, warmth in your hands. Each of these is an appearance in your space of feeling. Realize that as long as you're aware and awake, your space of feeling is full of whatever physical sensations there are being felt. And each new physical sensation that you feel, or a different aspect of a physical sensation, is an instance of feeling. Note it. Concentrate on it as closely and clearly as you can until concepts of parts of body disappear. Let it go and move on. This space of feeling also has a spatial property to it. You can locate these sensations and you can be more or less precise. Try to be as precise as you can possibly be. Now, without doing anything special, without readjusting your posture, without getting more serious or more focused, simply bring these three spaces together and begin attending to your external experience by tracking the arising, changing, and vanishing of appearances in your spaces of seeing, of visual imagery of the world around you, hearing of sounds of the world around you, and feeling of the physical body sensations that may arise. Realize that your experience, whatever it may be, in any given moment, is at least in part made of some combination of seeing, of external images of the world around you, hearing of sounds, and feeling of physical body sensations. One or all three of these may be active or passive at any given time, and your job is simply to attend to their arising and their vanishing. And to facilitate this, we're going to note and label. When you notice that your attention is focused on a visual object, simply note this, by which I mean focus on that image as closely as you can and label it seeing. When you notice that your attention is dominantly preoccupied by a sound that has arisen, note this, by which I mean concentrate on that sound as closely as you possibly can and label this as hearing. And when you notice that your attention is preoccupied by a physical sensation, note this, focus on that sensation as closely as you can for a moment, label it feeling, let it go and move on. We're going to say our labels out loud this time, if you can. If you happen to be practicing with other people, this might be distracting, and if you happen to be on a train or somewhere where this is just inconvenient and weird, just say them to yourself in your head, as it were. But if you can afford to say your labels out loud, it really, really helps. And it also really helps to work to a constant pace, such as one noting per breath, or one per inhale, one per exhale, or if you're good at counting seconds, one every 3, one every 5 seconds, or whatever works for you. I will demonstrate really quickly what this might sound like based on my experience, where I'm set. And then you can take over. Feeling, hearing, hearing, seeing, hearing, seeing, and so on. What I was hearing, feeling, and seeing is not that relevant. But do notice that there is a constant pace, which isn't too fast. You don't want to try to catch every appearance, nor can you, and it isn't too slow. You don't want to drift off into distractions. But find a pace that works for you, and remember to actually pause and actually listen, actually look, and actually feel for what is there, rather than trying to grab things ahead of time. Remember to say your labels out loud. Keep your tone steady and matter of fact rather than reactive. And when you're ready, in your own time, off you go. If you have paid attention, you will have noticed the tendency of your mind to shuffle between the external and the internal experiences. And so a seeing in the world around you might give rise to a thought or a whole waterfall of thoughts. A hearing of sound might give rise to an image, maybe of the thing that you heard or the thing that you heard reminded you of. And a feeling of a physical body sensation might give rise to an emotional body sensation. This is fine. This is the way our minds work. But what we are training here is the ability to notice this and then to guide our attention to where it needs to go. See if you can attend to your visual experience uncoupled from the thoughts it may give rise to. See if you can attend to your auditory experience uncoupled from mental imagery that may come with it. And see if you can attend to your physical body sensations independent of the emotional body sensations that rise in association. If you find yourself bored or frustrated by this, realize a curious thing. Both boredom and frustration are actually made of internal sensory inputs. They are made of emotional body sensations, of thoughts and mental images. You don't see boredom, you don't hear boredom, and you don't feel boredom in the realm of physical body sensations, though you certainly feel it in the emotional body sensations. Keep going. If at any one time you find yourself with 2 or 3 of these spaces active, simply choose one to note, and it doesn't matter how you make the choice. It doesn't matter whether you do the driving of your attention across the spaces or across the different objects within the spaces. All we care about is the external experience. And so if you're predominantly feeling that you are the one deciding to move your eyes from the lamp to the desk to the chair, that's fine. All of that is made of internal mental talk. What we really care about is the vision of the lamp and of the desk and of the chair. Keep going just a little bit longer. As you do this, take special care to realize that remembering that there was a sound that you can note and label is a thought, not a sound. It is an internal hearing, not an external hearing, even if the sound was merely a second ago. Keep going just a little bit longer and see if you can sort of reset and start again for this last little bit. An interesting thing that may have become obvious, or will become obvious the more you do this, is that distractions are always distractions of thought. There is no such thing as a distracting sound, or a distracting vista, or a distracting physical sensation. Now, you might rather disagree with this statement, but pay very close attention. Are these things distracting all by themselves in their nature? Or is the nature of distraction your thinking about them? Anyway, you've just done a fair bit of work, so take the very last minute of this practice to do nothing. You might close your eyes to reduce the amount of visual sensory input and simply sit there. Don't move, don't track, don't count, don't note, don't label. Just sit for a minute. The primary point of this exercise, and exercises like it, is training of concentration and clarity. I am not suggesting that you should ultimately go about life seeing, hearing, and feeling everything, although if you can and want to, by all means, go for it. But what we are really training is focus, which is essentially your ability to guide your attention where it needs to go, to the most important thing in any given situation. And if you pay very close attention, notice how many situations call for focus on external sights and sounds and sensations, and yet our minds wander into internal mental talk, mental imagery of futures and consequences and pasts, and emotional body sensations that aren't actually useful. And so in a way, this practice is both a training ground and a tool for attending to situations that require external focus. Another pragmatic benefit of this practice as a tool is in how we attend to overwhelming experiences. As you may have realized, distractions are always distractions of thought, and overwhelming experiences are, by and large, made overwhelming by our thoughts. And very often it is a good idea to direct our attention away from the overwhelming mental imagery, intertwining with mental talk, intertwining again with emotional body sensations, and towards our external experiences of seeing, hearing, and feeling, of physical body sensations. This can be an effective and useful way to deal with overwhelming experiences. One more particularly cool thing to note about this practice of focusing on external experiences is that you can take it anywhere. And so you can train your concentration and your clarity and your equanimity and your general focus wherever you go while you're doing other things, driving, washing your dishes, cooking food, and so on. And so it's not a bad idea to do this practice often and do it many, many times. It's probably a very good idea to develop your own version that works for you and do that often. And it is an exceptionally good idea to take it with you as you go about your day. And remember to sort of whip it out whenever you can, attending to the world around you by tracking the seeing of visions and objects, hearing of sounds, and feeling of physical body sensations. Practice your concentration and your baseline focus, by which I mean the amount of focus you can bring to any situation when you are not trying to focus, will grow. And as always, we will build from here.